Hey YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? I'm definitely a lot more contemplative today than I am upset. I was a little more upset, I think it was yesterday. But of course, you guys aren't going to see the video I made yesterday until today sometime. If you are seeing this very quickly. So I wish I could tell you more about why I'm contemplative, just in general mood I'm in today. But it does have something to do with what I dreamed about. The second dream, the very last dream I had before waking up. Well, at least the one I had right before waking up today. And that dream had something to do with the way that I interact with other people in general. And again, I'm going to try my best to explain what was going on, or why I have this little bit more reassurance about everything socially, from a social standpoint. And so I remember part of the dream involved something to the nature or effect of a lot of dudes, former roommates, talking with them. And then some of my dream also had to do with women. The feeling I had a lot of times with different kinds of roommates I had, dudes and stuff, were basically that most guys had a really tough time knowing what was really going on with somebody else. Very self-centered. We guys are very occupied with our own lives, largely in our own thoughts and our own. It's like, yeah. And that was the overall vibe I got. Even though the character, for the most part, the character of most of the guys that I've had roommates, for practical purposes, basically all of them were okay guys, but you know, we're not talking about bad people here. We're talking about good guys. But anyway, so then with women, what often happened was this is where it gets kind of interesting. Women seem to be a lot more anxious, visibly anxious, or they try not to show it, but you know, women were often worried about all kinds of things there, and the better sorts of women, the more righteous sorts of women that I want to spend more time with, have been just paralyzed with fears and worries, and those that weren't paralyzed were really didn't get the right idea about who I was. But you know, they often were able to kind of sense what was going on with me in some level. It just came to the wrong conclusions on some level. And there was this feeling in my dream, the last dream I had, where it was a little bit along the lines of, what does it really matter? There are a lot of things in life that seem like they are a huge deal. I'm not saying that they're of no value, but a lot of things in life we think are just so like, wow, like just such a big deal. You can never look someone in the eye again if you do this thing. It's wrong. There's a lot of that I'll be honest, there's a lot of that level of seriousness of life in my religion, and also in other similar churches. I can't always say that's a good thing, that's a healthy thing, but there are reasons why that is the way it is. And, you know, who might have changed that? But it's like the worrying. It's the I sometimes wonder if my personality combined with my religion just makes me one of the most anxious, worried people in existence. And this is probably going a different direction than most of my other videos at this point. But I wouldn't be surprised if I was one of the most anxious, worried people that ever lived. Is that a good thing? Yeah. That can be a good thing. It can be kind of hard. It can make life very hard. But I just psychologically am designed to be that way anyway, from birth. Being a worrywart. But, do women ever say what they really want? No, unless they have more testosterone. I'm just being very, very frank here, but and maybe a little bit of a generalization. But who says what they want? Men or women? Well, it tends to be men. And if it's a woman that says what she really wants, it's obvious to me that on some level she seems more like a guy that way. Says what she wants. Knows what she wants. She says what she wants. Goes about life the way, she's very driven, focused in that area. We often think, oh, that's because she has more testosterone in her body. Sometimes that's a personality thing. Sometimes it's both. But we all kind of buy into that sort of whole thing, and I mean, there's probably some level of truth to it, but it's probably not just hormonal, but those hormones really can affect the way your behavior is a lot of times. But it's yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the more that I'm realizing more and more what's really going on with other people, how they're really seeing me and everything else, just gives you power. And it also gives you this feeling of liberation. Like it's kind of like when you're younger, you're so wrapped up in what other people think of you, and you're not sure what people think of you. And as you get older, you get a little more confident in general. Everybody's a little different. I don't know. That's the general trend. And then when you get to a point or varying stages where you actually can just read people, or you just kind of know what somebody really wants without them saying it. You don't even need to ask. It doesn't need to be awkward. You just know. But you can't get to that point unless you... Anyway, it's like, but how do you know what somebody really wants or what someone thinks of you unless they say? And there's so many. Like there's this old guy, older. I say older. He's not old. He's an older gentleman that I watch his stuff, and he's pretty cool. My dad thinks he's whatever. I know he's not like super straight-laced, but he's actually a pretty decent guy. George Bruno has a lot of great things to say. So his channel's always worth checking out. But it's like he definitely is at an age where and experience in life, more importantly, experience in life where he just knows. He just knows what, not like things that a prophet would know, but he kind of knows what people are really after. And most adults should have some kind of awareness of that when they get older. Anyway, but I mean, so again, I mentioned women, in my experience, have been very anxious, very scared of all kinds of dating things and relationship things. They'll never say it. They'll never tell a guy how they really feel unless they definitely love the guy. But it's very, I don't know. There's some aspects of that I still haven't quite figured out in terms of the feminine mind, but I have some awareness of when a woman loves a guy, or loves me. Some degree, mind you. It's more than when I was younger, for sure. But still not very keen on that. But it's definitely better than it used to be. But it's kind of like, again, as I mentioned in my dream, when with the idea that women are often really hard to understand what it is that they want. You know, the feeling was often that, so I would just kind of lose interest with that woman, or I would just not bother too much, because if they were trying to do whatever, then maybe their feelings weren't all that intense anyway. Or if I just didn't show very strong interest in a woman, then why should I show stronger interest if she shows stronger interest? You know, for some reason. Or and then it's kind of this feeling of, you know, we all want to get married, and we all want to be sure. That's why there's all that emotional depth of this whole subject. It's kind of like, at some point, it's kind of like also like, well, what does it matter? I mean, if it works out, if it doesn't, what does it all matter? And when you ask the question, what does it matter? What does this matter, or that matter, or that matter? You know, again, you can go about that whole train of thought so many different ways, and you can start to feel like you have less purpose in life. Or life can be, you can go down these depressing routes, right? Suicidal routes where nothing matters, nihilism, right? And you don't really want to do that because things do matter, but how much does it matter? And is it something that, is it a hopeless situation? Is it absolutely hopeless? Is there nothing that you can do about it ever? Or do you have hope in life? Is there hope in life? Are there things to live for? Are there things to keep striving for? Yes, if somebody has hope, hope tends to chase despair away. But if somebody doesn't have any hope, that's where you get issues. There are a lot of things about me that keep me going. That no matter whatever life throws at me, I just keep going. And I do what I do. And I know what it is I'm about. And I have passions. And it gives passions give your life meaning and purpose. But also, your worldview. The two are related. Your passions have to agree on some level with your worldview. Otherwise, it's like schizophrenia. I get that too. Just kind of a little bit of a tricky spot we're in here. Sorry. So okay. So yeah, I mean, in my dream, I had this feeling of, I just didn't care. I mean, what this one girl thinks, or what this other girl thinks, or what so-and-so thinks, or these people, I just did not care. I had this feeling of, I don't, and it's like we should care about people, but how much do we care about people, what they think of us, especially parents and siblings? And the more that we care about people, the more we care about what they think about us. That's only natural. We're not always aware of who we care about the most, and sometimes we're not really close to. We go for long stretches of life where we don't really have very many connections, if any, and so we keep all these things inside our souls, and become very, very isolated, on some level. Or we're the complete opposite. We have tons of people that we are always around. But it's interesting when you have a person who deeply cares about a whole bunch of people and pleasing a whole bunch of other people. That's exhausting. That's an exhausting way of living. It's exhausting enough for me driving around to different students' homes, and then on top of that, exercising at least a few times a week, if not more, and then dealing with all of my stuff in my house, or involving cleaning or other things, conversations with other people, or church and so on and so forth, social things. I mean, my life is pretty busy, as you guys know. It's busier now than it was definitely not even a year ago. Like, it's busy. It's been busier. Anyway, I mean, so I can't remember the exact things in my dream, but some of it was the places I was at. Some of it was the nature of the conversations. I think people maybe asked me a question. What do I think of this or that? And I remember just thinking to myself, not that I meant to be rude, but I was just like, I just don't care at all about being involved with this conversation. But I don't know if I was rude. I just was like, that's not how I am. I don't ignore people. But I remember feeling like, I would ask the question to the person, is that the question you meant to ask me? Or what's really on your mind here? Because, a lot of people, especially women, will ask questions or talk about things that they really don't want to talk about. Really. But it's a chit-chatty thing. It's a small talk thing. And they'll talk about how this is such a big deal. But, many women will say it's a skill to develop. And I'm looking at you, Great Britain, England, nation that I often love so much, but yet you seem to have this obsession with politeness and social etiquette, making small talk, and always being courteous, which again, I always find so amazing and refreshing and nice. But we often wonder just how for real you guys are. We all know soccer hooligans are pretty familiar for real. We also know they're quite rude, so we all have some disgust when they seem to represent Great Britain and all that train of thought. We just like it when people are polite and they're for real. Can't we get both? One would hope. Anyway, now on some level, you guys know why it's always been a love-hate relationship with all the Bronte sisters or Jane Austen stuff. Which is it's always been a big deal with all the U.S. women, at least if they're certain types. Anyway, this love of Great Britain, by the way, it's not just me. It's like part of the culture I'm from. If I didn't love England, something would be wrong with me at this point. Well, you almost have to be suffocating with the English culture, or English American culture, whatever, to feel like you're suffocating to hate it or despise it or something. Or you have to be an Indian who remembers very vividly all the things that General Dyer did that were pretty darn bad. That's a different story, but something, you can have other reasons for hating English, whatever. Anyway, so, no, I woke up from this dream, and I was just like, okay, like my life had a great deal of meaning. And I'm working on imaginative things. When you work on these imaginative things, when I do, and I'm exploring all these different possibilities and things, and some things have a lot of meaning, other things less so. And sometimes it's just like a mood you're in. You're picturing certain landscapes. It does something for you. I don't know. For me, it does. It just does stuff for me, and I find it so intriguing. I love it. I love this train of thought. It's hard to explain just how much I like these kinds of trains of thought. So I love animated videos that are really, really outstanding on YouTube. I have to watch one after the other. I have to be in a certain mood though, because I'm often pretty spent. I'm often pretty tired at the end of the day. More recently, but yeah, my feeling was, why would I bother with all the dating games and with all the weirdness that a lot of women seem to have? It's hard just to be on the same page. So the feeling was, hey, if they just make it so hard for me, or if they make it so hard, if their life is just full of, whatever, they can't, then why bother with that person? So on that note, and I was going to talk about this in some level. There are social events in my church that help you meet new people. They often don't help you meet new people, and they can be awkward. And I haven't really figured out this whole thing, and it's often easier to talk to musicians than it is to members of my own church and other people that have similar interests in me. That's always kind of how it's been on some level. But so it's great when they have both the same interests and they're similar interests and they're members of my church and stuff. But it's just it's easier for me even after having a stream. It's much easier for me to not feel embarrassed if somebody rebuffs me in terms of anything social. I feel like it would be easier. It's so hard to explain, but it's kind of like it was so refreshing in a way hearing another woman that was playing in Fly Symphony explain this. This woman hated it when we'd put women up on a pedestal and like they're little pretty princesses and delicate little princesses that needed to be always saved and always needed to be protected. She hated that, and I told her I fully agree with her feelings. Like, it drives you nuts as well, even though some part of me relates to that culture, because the more conservative LDS culture relates to that kind of whole thing very, very strongly. But traditional views of women and stuff. But it's kind of like, because I've felt the negative side to this pretty princess thing. I felt it so strongly, or I've felt the entitled feeling that women sometimes seem to have. Some women. That's why I agreed so strongly with her, and I was just like, heck yes. I mean, she could have. I don't know. I knew where she was coming from, and she was so right. I mean, when we glorify a woman, or if maybe the other direction, but if a man just is so smitten by a woman that they'll, like, oh man, your wish is my command. I'll do anything for you. You think you're in love, and but it's kind of like, and a lot of guys know what I'm talking about. And when you have these experiences, even on some small level, and the feeling is not reciprocated, or they weren't who you thought they were, or something, I don't know, you do get more jaded and depressed about, it is harder to get outside of yourself and meet people. Of course, why would anybody think it's easier? Why would anybody think that's such a big deal? And for some reason, we don't talk about this very much in my church. And we should. And it should be the same deal with other churches. They should talk about this very thing. We're all human beings, and we're all dealing with this at some level. So, on some level, you just come over time to think to yourself, well, if it's going to be this way, if it has to be so complicated, what does it really matter? Would a person that really truly thought deeply of me, would they try to make this hard? It's one thing to not be sure how you feel about somebody. It's quite another thing if you were on purpose toying with their emotions. And if it's unsurety, then it's time to talk and spend time with that person. Not avoid them, right? Because if you avoid them, and this is also kind of a mindset that I'm very familiar with as well. But again, having this kind of dream makes it a little bit easier to not avoid them. You don't want the person that you married to be somebody you're avoiding. That person should always have a way about them that you want to be around them, I would think. And if they don't have that way, you want to be around them, you don't want to marry them. So I'm about to teach a piano lesson here in a second, so I have to wrap this video up. I just thought that, you can't always explain what it is about certain dreams that cause you to think certain ways. Just, it's like, there's the door, to a woman who acts certain ways. And if you do like my company, you do think very well of me, well, okay then. We'll see where it goes. But am I gonna pursue women? I don't know. I don't know. If they're really amazing, really, really amazing, because I've met some semi-amazing. I thought I noticed some pretty amazing ones. I don't know. Anyway, it's a little bit like, the whole employee-employer relationship in wave 2, in a way. It's different. This whole thing is different but it's similar. Employers think that even during this time when we have an employee-centered economy, they think, oh yeah, it'll just be a matter of time before we're back into our usual thing where people are begging to work for us. No, I don't think people ever will be wanting to beg for jobs ever again. I think people would want to live off the land, or nobody's going to feel compelled to go to work like they used to feel. I think we've had a permanent shift. We've had a permanent shift in society in the United States, at least in the United States. Employers have to prove they have to like I don't know. I haven't figured out what's a fair middle ground, but they have to stop treating people like crap. Otherwise, they're going to lose them. Yeah. Okay, you guys have any thoughts and comments below. Catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.